let's go ahead and get started into understanding the INCOSE certification process. So let me go up here. All right, so what we're going to do for this webinar, it should take about an hour or so, depending on how much I chat away here. But what we're going to do is just cover what's the big deal of system engineering, why is it important, and then we're going to go into the organization of INCOSE and the fact that they have this certification program. And this system engineering professional certification program does have an application process that I'm going to show you, and I'm going to get into some key requirements for the certification. One is the application, which really demonstrates your education and your experience. And the other is your knowledge, which is based on an exam that you have to take vis-a-vis INCOSE. So we're going to get into details on that. Who am I? I've been an engineer as long as I can remember, since the 70s actually, and worked for General Electric, NEPC, NEMA, Army, DOD, you name it. Worked in product engineering to system engineering for large weapon systems. I'm also an adjunct professor for UMBC, and I've been very involved in the local INCOSE chapter as well. I've been teaching this INCOSE system engineering professional exam preparation course since 2009. So I've been doing it for several years, several hundred students, and a lot of those students have gotten their certification. But go into the chat function, tell me what you're going after. Hopefully you started typing that already, and maybe tell me where you live. I'm here in Maryland. If you're in Maryland as well, that's cool. And the main reason, by the way, why you're typing that up, one of the reasons we're doing this is just to kind of give you a heads up. We're about to do a boot camp, the training center. I'll be teaching it. And the reason we're ahead of this, and I'll show you a little graphic later on, is that we want you to try to get ahead of the curve, so to speak, and have your application ready so that you can take the exam. So we'll explain the process and how it works. Actually, it's good that you're here to learn about the CCEP application. It is, I've been teaching this for many years, and I think the application is the one thing that kind of throws my students off. I do teach enough about the handbook to help you pass the exam, but you do need to have this application in place. So let's talk a little bit about this INCOSE a little bit, as well as what system engineering is all about. Not only am I part of INCOSE, but I'm also part of IEEE, and I get their Spectrum magazine. And one of the nice things about them, several years ago, they had this need for systems engineering in this article that they called "What's Wrong with Weapons Acquisition." I was in the, working for the Navy for acquisition, born and bred with DeWia Level 3 for SPURDY. If you know what that means, then you know that I'm kind of a system engineer for the Navy. And I love the way this article kind of described what a system engineering is. It talks about how another factor contributing to program failure was this shortage of technically trained people, especially system engineers. Now, it's a system engineer that translates the technical needs into the overall system architecture that creates both the operational capability at the most affordable cost. But as the project proceeds and goals and needs shifts, system engineers have to determine that difficult but necessary cost, schedule, and performance trade-offs to keep everything on track. And so as a program gets bigger, more complex, the need for rigorous system engineering only increases. So this is a great way for you to understand how system engineering is needed for these very highly complex projects that require a lot of thought, system thinking in order to bring it to bear. Also around this same time, back in 2009, system engineering was actually ranked as #1 for this poll for CNN Money. And they actually talk about the INCOSE CCEP program. But the best way to think of system engineers, and this is from one of our past INCOSE president a few years back, he talked about how system engineers are problem solvers. He quoted, his quote is, across an organization's product and services, system engineers also provide that critical leadership for integrating the technical activities. They have skills to influence multidisciplinary teams to reach consensus on how a system solution should come together. As problem solvers, they focus on outcome, not just process. Now, I understand, and when we get into trying to understand how to get involved with a solution, we do look at process, because, and that's what the handbook is all about. But we really need those processes to have a means to an end. Very important for system engineers to understand that. Now, what is INCOSE? It's a membership organization founded back in 1990, where they really wanted to push the profession of system engineering and disseminate this interdisciplinary principles and practices that enable the realization of a successful system. They want to share, promote, and advance the best of system engineering across the globe, try to benefit humanity and the planet, and become the world's authority on system engineering. It's not too hard to find INCOSE being referenced if you look at an article dealing with system engineering. That's usually what it's about. And oh, by the way, just to remind you, if you do have a chat, or you want to ask me a question within the chat, go ahead and raise your hand. I'll be able to see that, and I'll stop and read your question and answer it. Okay, let's talk about this membership organization of INCOSE. Now, they have a lot of products out there. They have a annual INCOSE symposium, as well as an annual workshop where all system engineers come together and talk about system engineering. So it's a very fun time. If you ever have a chance to go to one of those as a system engineer, it's great to get together with your people, of course. There's a Journal of System Engineering, their membership magazine, Insight. They contribute, of course, to the System Engineering Body of Knowledge, or SEBOC. They helped with the Object Management Group, OMG, with their modeling language for systems, not just their unified modeling language, but their systems modeling language. And they have a system engineering handbook. They also have a certification program, and that's where they actually have a kind of this multi-level professional certification program for system engineering professionals. And it's kind of a formal method to recognize the knowledge and experience of system engineering, regardless where they are in their career. So it's kind of there and developed to kind of encourage the system engineering community to have standards to identify and develop system engineering professionals, and to, of course, recognize a body of knowledge for system engineering community to use. And of course, it'll help us as system engineering professionals, where we actually have this standard of recognition that we can show potential employees, perhaps, or of course our employer, if they are interested in something like that. And of course, organization and institutions will also have a way to measure a professional knowledge, having this way of independently showing and evaluating where a person stands from a professional system engineering standpoint. And this has been around since 2004. Now, keep in mind, this is a certification, not a certificate. As a matter of fact, if you come to our training center boot camp after 3 days, I will give you a certificate that says you went through my boot camp. But that doesn't mean that you're certified, okay? And this isn't a license. That's something the state usually gives out for professions, sort of like professional engineers. This is actually just a confirmation from an independent source to show that you have the competency of a system engineer from an education, experience, and knowledge standpoint. And it's a formal process by INCOSE, and it's it's volunteer-based, of course. Actually, this is a good question for those of you in the session here listening to me. How many of you have heard of PMI? Go ahead and raise your hand so I can see. Program Management Institute, good. Thank you. Okay, for those of you who haven't, it is the Project Management Institute, very similar to INCOSE, and the fact that the Program Management Institute really pushes the profession of program management and project management. And they have certifications that they help put out there. This is really no different than what INCOSE does. There's the International Information System Security Certification Consortium. They do things for cybersecurity, for getting certifications there. IEEE has their certification for software development professionals. So just like these other organizations, and you can find a plethora of other organizations that are out there that will provide certifications for certain professions. And INCOSE is no different in that respect. Now, INCOSE, what they do have is this kind of credentials that go from an entry level up to a senior level. And it really doesn't matter where you are in your career, but you can go ahead and go for these certifications, so to speak. So for organizations, what's nice about the certification is you can recognize what kind of capabilities your organizational professional staff has. And it can help you with your hiring and promotion process. And it can be an independent assessment of how well your system engineers are instead of just doing something internally. And it encourages, of course, your system engineers or your employees to get continual education. So it really does set an organization apart. You can imagine if an organization has put all this effort into perhaps getting ISO or CMMI type certification, and they don't have people to actually run it. It kind of complements those initiatives that they put together. As a matter of fact, you can think of an organization having these organizational certifications and how that would fit in terms of people having certifications that supplement what the organization has. Now, you as an individual, this certification recognizes you as a system engineer. It discriminates you between other job applicants who don't have it, so making you pretty competitive in that respect. But what's nice about this is that you get this system engineering designation. You can take it from job to job to actually even different domains because it really is about system engineering. And of course, it does indicate your commitment to your to your professional development as a professional. So it does set you apart as well. And if you're working in teams and a lot of the people have this certification, you now have this common language that you can start using when you talk about system engineering. So it definitely helps break down those barriers and boundaries and brings teams closer together because they now have this common language that they're working with. So it's really helpful with multi-organizational, graphically distributed teams. Now, individuals can leverage their certification by with this being recognized. You can put that designation on your business card and resume, and even explain to your employer, hey, this is a performance objective I was able to meet. From an organizational standpoint, you can now have expectations on the performance of the system engineers that are in your organization. Now, this I already explained, has been around since 2004 when they started with the basic CSEP. Since then, they've gathered about 1,700 CSEPs, around 600 ASEPs, and about 271 ESEPs. So as you can see, this is a growing aspect to INCOSE and to system engineering. It has impressive growth. There's also, thank you, Ray, for that. There's also agreements that certain companies and universities have with INCOSE dealing with certification. And these agreements, if you see the name here is one of your companies, that actually is helpful to you because the cost is a little less, and I think you can get your application in a little bit quicker. Now, there are different ways you can enter into this certification. As a matter of fact, I entered it by getting my CSEP, and then after 4 or 5 years, I went ahead and got my ESEP. But if you're just new at this, you can go ahead and get your ASEP. All you have to do there is pass the exam, and then 5 or a few years later, go ahead and apply for the CSEP. You don't need to take the exam again because you already passed it for ASEP. And then once you've been CSEP for a good 20 years or so, then you can transition to an ESEP. So you can build this certification along with your career path, or wherever you're at in your career path right now, you can get certified. So let's talk about what each certification level is. The ASEP is kind of that brand new, you want to be a mature, you want to mature as a system engineer, you just got out of college, you have very limited experience. And what's nice about the ASEP is it's a very simple application. You put in your name, your address, you give them your money, and you take the exam. And if you pass, boom, you're an ASEP. Now, you do need to become, just like with all these other certifications, you need to be an INCOSE member. But they do give you about 5 years to renew, and this has been around since 2008. And again, just as I said, you have a very simple application, submit that in with your application fee. 2 weeks later, they say take the test. 2 weeks after that, if you take the test, you're good to go. So it really is a nice way to get perhaps the exam out of your way, and then maybe concentrate on your application. Your foundation level, and this is where I believe Sherry said that she wanted to perhaps go pursue this, is you actually have to have at least 5 or more years of system engineering experience. And of course, you have to pass the exam. Your experience has to be substantiated by references, and also you have to renew it every 3 years. And you have to be a member of INCOSE. We'll get into more about this. This is the certification process. There's actually 2 aspects to this. One is you fill out all your applications, submit it, wait for your references to come in. Once they line those up, they'll notify you. You pay the test fee and you take the test. And when you pass, you're good to go. Now, the problem with that is that application to references coming in could be several months. So this is fine if you want to do this, but if you kind of want to get the exam out of the way rather quickly, there is an exam first option. The only issue is that you still need to have a complete application filled out. So I do want to encourage you to think about if the application is stymieing you a little bit, perhaps go for the ACEP, pass the exam, and then take your time to get your CCEP application put together. Now, I'm going to explain to you why the CCEP application takes effort and time. As a matter of fact, INCOSE figures it takes around 200 hours to put the application together on average. So let's talk about that. Not 200, maybe 20 hours, not 200. I got that one wrong. I think it's 200 days to get it through. Well, we'll see them here. The other one is expert system engineering. I put this in here for you in case you know anybody who would like to get their ECEPs, or if you feel you would be able to get it. You do have to show substantial leadership in your system engineering profession by either being a chief system engineer or a technical director or something like that. Also, you have to verify about 10 years of your experience, so you have to go back quite a bit, and a lot more references. They'll do a phone call to you as well as two of the references, and so you don't have to take the exam, but it does take a while and a lot of effort to get through the ECEP application. Okay, so really what we have here from a key requirements for the certification is we worry about the knowledge, experience, leadership, and education. Each of them come together for whatever certification you're after. For instance, education is something that they want to see that you have a technical degree, some kind of technical bachelor's degree. Now, if you have perhaps a bachelor degree that's not technical, but your master's or your doctorate is, that's good. They want to see some degree that's technical. If you have a technical bachelor's degree as well as a technical master's, the master's doesn't help here. It's just the bachelor degree. That's all they're looking for this. Now, your master's and your PhD come into handy if you're going for the ECEP, but it doesn't help you on this one. Now, if you don't have any education to speak of, maybe a non-technical bachelor degree, then just add experience to the CCEP. So instead of 5, you would have to put in perhaps 10 years to get your CCEP. And if you have no bachelor's degree whatsoever, just a high school diploma, but you have about 15 years of experience, you can still get certified. Speaking of experience, that's another area, and this is where it gets tricky. Because what they do is when you look at your application and go to Appendix A, of how to pull together your application, they actually have all these functional areas, and I actually show them here for you, but you can download Appendix A and actually see what they are, from requirements engineering, risk and opportunity management, technical effort, quality, process definition. There's quite a bit. As a matter of fact, they kind of put them into these areas here where you can actually see up here, this is the SE technical competencies: requirements, design, system integration, qualification, verification, and validation. And then you have SE management competencies. That's from planning, assessment, risk, and baseline control. And then you have support competencies. That's like specialty engineering, process definition training, tool support, and quality assurance. And then they add on these 13 a 14th one, which is other. And that's basically from your domain, what do you feel is a system engineering experience that should come into play? And so they allow you to throw that into the mix if you feel it's necessary. Now, what you need to do in order to be CCEP certified is you have to show at least a minimum of 5 years, and you have to show a minimum of 1 year, at least 1 year, for 3 or more of these functional areas. Okay, so you need to go in and say, have I worked baseline control for over a year? Have I worked process definition for over a year? Quality assurance or architecture and design for over a year? If you have, then you're on your way to having a successful application. This is why you can't, with your application, just say, oh, here's my my resume. You need to take your resume and actually rip it apart vis-a-vis these functions. So you have to look at each aspect of your positions you've been in, and what percentage of time did you spend doing these functions. That's a very important part, and that's where it gets tricky for people trying to fill out their CCEP, because this is a lot of effort to take all your experience and just rip it and put it into the right buckets. So they want to see that you're good at least in 3 of them, but if for the 5 years you can have more. You don't have to have all 14 done. They're not asking for that, but at least 3 in 1 year. This is actually a good diagram that shows, like, the option 1, this person only had 3 areas that they actually have experience in. In all 3 areas, it's over a year each, so they're good to go. But most likely, you may be down here at option 4, where you've had an experience for over a year for 3 areas, maybe even 4, and you have several smaller experiences as well. So it's good. If they see that, they actually feel a little better about giving you the certification, because it actually shows that you have a breadth of knowledge. Now, they're not looking for all the areas, just some that you're looking for. So let's talk about the application. Does anybody have any questions before we start? I want to make sure that everybody's happy here, because the application does take some time to get involved. Okay, it looks like everybody's fine. Good. All right, let's get into where the application. Now, the forms themselves, you can download them from the website. And what you would download is the actual application. There's a separate form for the ACEP. It's very simple. You don't have to worry about references either. But for CCEP, you do. So the CCEP is a little more complicated. It's a very long form you have to fill out. They have an entire instructions that includes the Appendix A to those instructions that have all the functional areas you need to make sure your experience aligns with. And then you need references. You need at least 3 references, and they need to be system engineers. So with that in mind, you need reference letters, and so you have this form where you can fill that out as well. So, and then you send the references this CSEP form for them to fill out, and they say, yes, we believe this person should be certified. So those are the 4 main documents that you need to pull down. Now, one of the things, because we're worried about references, even before you get started, you start thinking about who you would talk to, and actually start sending them emails to say, hey, would you mind working this reference out for me? Now, you do need to get from them some information that you need to put onto the application, mainly their name and address, so that they can be contacted by INCOSE if they need to be. Now, I would suggest you write a nice email to them saying, hey, I'm applying for this certification. I was wondering if you could attest to how well I did as a system engineer. And by the way, remember that great time we had when we did that requirements engineering for that space age contract we had or whatever. So you can kind of encourage them to remember those times that you actually worked together. So what I suggest you do is actually read and understand the 14 system engineering work areas under Appendix A, and start thinking, when you start looking at your resume, think in terms of those functions or roles, and then start mapping out where your work experiences fit within those roles. Now, what you would do is fill out the application by actually saying, hey, I was in this position for how many months? Notice up here, I put from P2, you went from January 2003 to August 2006. So that's about 43 months. I calculated that because that becomes important later when you actually fill out the application. And the one thing I want you to do is be able to make the matrix, and whoever's reviewing this application, make it easy for them so that they can see the matrix is tied back to your experience. Now notice down here, when I started filling out the experience, I actually said, this is the SE function technical planning. I did it for 12 months, and by the way, this is what I did. I did the same thing down here, process definition. I did this for 9 months, and this is what I did. Now, of course, while I had this position, I was working these simultaneously. So I had about a good 20 or so months. Well, it was 43 months. Of course, I had a lot more. I figured out, look, I probably did technical planning for about 20% of the time, put that into the amount of months, and I wind up with 2 or 3 months or something like that. So that's where you would have to try to work your experience within these functions in order for you to do this one thing, which is fill out the matrix. And that's what this is. It's your experience matrix. And this is where going from your position and what it says, making sure it reflects exactly what you have. So notice I have the 9 down here. I actually did several months more for technical planning. I just split it up because it was easier for me. I did some training as well. It adds up to 41. If you remember back here, I actually only had 43. That's good. Now, you can't go over 43 because they don't want to see that you're doubling up or something like that during these time frames. So make sure that it adds up to the amount of months you were there. By the way, just real quick to remind you that this form is in Microsoft Word, and it actually doesn't have the ability to work spelling. So because of that, you actually want to try to do the the explanation of what your experience is in a separate document, make sure it's spell checked, and then copy and paste it. This probably be better for you. All right, is there any questions about that part of filling out the application? Because I know it can get kind of tricky as you're filling it out. By the way, if you do have more questions after we're done, in the chat, I'll go ahead and put my email address and I'll answer any questions you have. All right. Now, let's talk about certification knowledge requirements, okay? Now, this is where you actually have to take the exam. Now, I am going to ask you guys if you're awake. I'm going to see if you're awake, okay? Because I'm the only one talking here, and it'd be nice to have you guys fill out the chat room every now and then. So what the knowledge requirements are is basically you're taking an exam based on the handbook, handbook 4.0, and you're taking the exam through Prometric, which is this exam's organization, and it's 2 hours in length, 120 questions, all of it done electronically, and the pass-fail results are immediately given to you once you finish it. And by the way, if you do fail the test, you can retake it at least twice within that 1 year time frame. Again, it's based on version 4 of the handbook. And if you're going for the ACEP, it's the exact same exam. Okay, let's try this out. Let's do the left-hand side one. Which 3 of the following methods are methods to express functional behavior? Network tree, behavior diagram, allocated requirements diagram, functional flow block diagram, or IDEF0 diagrams. Go ahead and get on the chat and tell me, is it A, B, C, D, or E? You can only choose 3, so let me know. I'll give you about 4 minutes to think this through. Hope you guys are typing away. All right, we got 1. Don't you guys cheat. Is there anybody else who wants to come in? Let's see if Diane, Ed, believes it's B, E, and F. Okay. Now, it is interesting if you look through it, what are the answers that actually have functions as part of the answer? And I think Ed Rodriguez actually has the right thing. Behavioral diagram, that's like functional flow, and IDEF. So B, E, and F is actually the answer. So let's see if I can, there we go, B, E, and F. So good try. Now, what I wanted to do, the reason I kind of have you go through that is you most likely went through and said, well, this one makes sense. This one doesn't make sense, so I can take that one off. These 2 make absolute sense. And then you're stuck with the last 2, which is the right one. And I think you'll find that's the majority of the cases you run up against. But what I'm trying to do is show you what these exam questions are like. Let's do this one, configuration management. What are justifications? Do you facilitate communication, force change evaluation, prevent requirements change, control requirements change, or encourage requirements change? So which are these? I'll give you about, let's give you about 30 seconds on this one. Now, the way I would look at this while you guys are thinking through this and putting it together, I would think the last three, if you notice, they're all about requirements change, and really only one of them is correct. So that means A and B is probably there. It does facilitate communication, force your evaluation of whatever change. But are you trying to prevent, control, or encourage change? And I think it's control. So Ed's got it right. A, B, and D. Very good. Ah, Sherry, you came in just in time. Just in time. Very good. So I'm glad to see you guys are awake. By the way, if you want, you can get onto the INCOSE website and go to their resources area. And if you were to do that, you would actually find some other exam questions you may want to look at. Now, these are poorly developed beta exam test questions. So just keep that in mind while you're looking at them. One nice thing about it is it just kind of gives you that contextual understanding of the way these questions are built, I guess is the best way to put it. So to prepare for the exam, what you need to do, of course, is get the handbook and then study it, right? And then if you feel you need some extra help, you may want to sign up for our boot camp that's coming in. So getting the handbook, you can go to the INCOSE website and actually buy a hard copy down here for about $30 if you're a member. And by the way, you need to be a member in order to be certified. So become a member and you're able to do the right-hand side on this here, the PDF version, download that, and then actually go to Office Depot and make a print up that with a spiral copy that you'd be able to flip around. This is a good way to get your handbook. The other thing you may want to do, we're here at this free seminar. This is actually class 1 of an 8-class series that I teach about getting ready for the certification exam. Class 1, I usually talk about the application, which we've just done. And we then get straight into the handbook. And by the way, if you do want to sign up, please use INCOSE 15. That gives you a nice 15% discount for those who came to our webinar here. Basically, what our battle rhythm for those 3 days is: in the morning, we do an entire lecture, have lunch, and then afternoon do an entire lecture. So what do I mean by that? Is basically what I do is in the morning, I do an entire class. As you can see, I actually have 8 classes. And the reason class 1 is to talk about the certification overview and give you application help, which we're doing now. What I'm hoping is you'll go ahead and submit your application so that you're ready for the boot camp. And once you're done, you can start not only study for the exam, but take the exam rather quickly after the boot camp. So we're getting together on the 19th, 20, and 21. It's an all-day boot camp for those 3 days. It's a great way. I know it's kind of like getting hit with a fire hose with all the information that's in the handbook, but it is a good way to get ready for the exam. We do cover the entire contents of the book. The way I do that is I have this right back here is my diagram that's behind me. It's a full-fledged diagram that shows the process flow between the various processes, all 31 of them. So I think you'll find that very instructive. And this is the way I teach. We build this chart up from the very beginning, all the way from the beginning, like we talk about infrastructure management, all the way to disposal. What's nice about this course also is we also have Blackboard, and we use that extensively, where your course materials, references, and quizzes are available to you. And one nice thing is that we actually have a bunch of quizzes, at least 2 quizzes per class for those 7 classes. So about 14 quizzes, which about 5 to 10 questions each, dealing with those areas that class goes into. And then we have a 120 question 2-hour exam that you can practice with. Now, what's nice about Blackboard is you can go in and take these quizzes and take this exam over and over and over again as many times as you need. It'll be different each time, and it'll just get you that much more comfortable with the exam so that you're ready for it. So those are the key requirements that we went through. They're all being used in order to figure out if you should be certified or not, and which level's right for you. If you're just getting started, go for the ACEP. If you're about 10 years, 8 to 10 years, maybe CCEP is what you want to go after. And of course, if you're much long in the years like me, maybe the ECEP is something you want to try. This just shows you the various elements of what you need to know from a knowledge, education, and experience for each of these certifications. Notice for the ACEP, it's just the exam. And by the way, this is why I have students do this. This is actually something that INCOSE kind of shows what it takes for you to get your application together. INCOSE takes about 2 weeks to turn it around. Your references may take about 2 or 3 months, and then it'll take about 20 days to turn it around, and before you 60 days by the time you take the exam, and 2 weeks to turn that around. About 200 days all in all. So normally, sometimes I have students who get frustrated by the application, and they're like ready to take the boot camp, want to just get this exam taken care of. They go ahead and put the ACEP application in, get that INCOSE permission to go ahead and take the exam, and then they go ahead and actually take the exam, pass it, and then they can spend a few months after that, even half a year, to get their CCEP together. So it's something to consider as we go forward. By the way, if you do get your ACEP or even your CCEP, you do need to renew. You have to maintain your membership, but you do need to have 60, I believe it's 120 professional development units. That includes the 5 professional units per year you get being a member, attending local chapter meetings, volunteering usually is very helpful, taking classes, of course, going to a seminar, maybe publishing a book on system engineering. All those can contribute as you go forward. My suggestion is go to the certification forms, download the renewal form, put it in a Google Doc, and every time you do something, put it in there. After 3 years, you don't want to go back and find out you did the wrong thing. So it takes a while. Now, almost everything I showed you here is available on the INCOSE website for you. And I give you the link here so that just go to the resource section for their certification portion, and you can find their program overview. So is there any questions at all? I've been at this for an hour, just natting away. I'm sure some of you may have some kind of questions, perhaps. So I'll wait until you type something in, if you want. All right. All right, it looks like everybody's pretty satisfied. I'm going to wrap this up, but I just want to remind you that we do have the boot camp coming up. Go to the UMBC Training Center site there. Also, I want to see if you guys can, if I actually share a file with you, will you be able to see it? So that's what I want to know. So, oh, that's right. I want to share that. Now with this, can you guys download this at all? Can anybody go into there and can you see if you could download that? Maybe we can show you. Okay, let me, okay, what I wanted to show you here is that there is a opportunity to take the exam for free. It usually costs $80 with Prometrics, but what they want to do is try this paper-only version. If you're close here in Maryland or in the Virginia area, it's at George Mason University. But by this Friday, you have to get your ACEP application sent to the president of the Washington Metro area INCOSE chapter. So all the information's there. If you can download this file, can you?
No, not from the slide.
Brutal.
I can't.
Yeah, all right. All right. I was hoping that you would I'd be able to share this with you guys. All right. So that's something that I thought that you would be interested in while you're doing that. By the way, if you do come to, oh, you could do a screenshot. That's brilliant. Okay, that's good. Let's do that real quick. Let me share that file one more time. There we go. Or write all this down, I guess. But it is important that you get that ACEP application filled out and then sent to the president of INCOSE WMA, and then he'll send you information about the Saturday, October 29th. So hopefully you'll be able to go to that. All right. One last thing, let me finish this up. And don't forget to use the code INCOSE15. So if you do sign up, then class 1 is kind of done for you. So on October 19th, we'll just go right into the handbook. Probably cover a little bit what we covered here, just slightly. But we'll get right into the handbook. So that's about it. You can get a hold of me. So I want to thank you all for coming. If you have any questions whatsoever, please let me know and email me, and I'll get the information to you if you want. So thank you again. I really appreciate everybody being here. We'll catch you on the flip side. All right.